Okay, quite a few attendees. We'll just give this another minute, then we'll get started. I do see quite a few known names, so it's really nice to see you guys. I think I interacted with you guys even during the last webinar. Nice to see you here. All right, I think let's get started. It's 3 minutes past 6, and we have some ground to cover. So we're going to get started. And all right, well, welcome everyone to the third session in the MBA workshop series 2022 hosted by the Red Pen. Today we're going to speak about resume and LinkedIn and the role of resume and LinkedIn in your MBA applications. Okay. This is my favorite session, though I will start with a disclaimer that I don't think I'm the most qualified person to speak about this when I look at some of the resume specialists that we have at the Red Pen. Okay, it's the most important component of the application, and I cannot wait for me to kind of just share some really good insights, which I hope that if you're working on your applications on your own, you're able to use this. Okay. As is the tradition, I'll just start off by talking a little bit about the Red Pen. For some of you who don't know us, we have been around for 11 years now, and we serve, education consulting. We help with higher education consulting across undergraduate, MBA, postgraduate, boarding schools, pre-college advising. And this is specifically for MBA applicants, and these are some of our rates, and I was very proud to say that people who have worked with us in the last cycle, who worked with us for 5 programs or more, received offers to at least one of their top 2 choice programs. Over $1 million in scholarship. In fact, since that last, we had a couple of waitlists that were converted along with scholarships. So now the scholarship count is about $1.5 million. And most of our applicant pool, comes to us because they are applying to top 25 programs in US and Europe. All right. These are our final admits in 2020, 2021. As you will see, every top school is over here, and the same is for 2021, 22. The logo cloud doesn't change because I think that's the kind of track record we boast of. I start every webinar with this, and why? Because I want to reinforce that anyone who wants to take a screen grab, please do. I do want to reinforce that these are the 6 elements that our admissions officers are basically looking for throughout your applications. And on the left hand side or right, the way you view it, you have your essays, recommendations, resume, application form, and interview. So these are the application components through which all these elements are evaluated by admissions officers. Now today, when you're talking about resume and LinkedIn, these are the 2 buckets that we are basically going to be focused on. However, to some extent, the goals also matter, the short-term and long-term goals, because you have to make sure that your resume not just includes your past experience, but it includes skills which are transferable skills which are aligned with your post-MBA short-term and long-term goal in case you're applying to business school with the aim of transitioning your career. Okay. These are the key milestones for round 1 2022 applications. I use this in every webinar. Please take a screen grab for those of you who are new, who are attending the webinar for the first time, and do try to see where you are. Planning your schedule for MBA applications, especially if you're applying to multiple business schools, if you're yet to give your GMAT. This is sort of a broad stroke schedule or sketch that you can use to see where you are in your progress. That being said, business schools have also started announcing, deadlines and essay topics. Applications should open in another 2 weeks. So, you should have a plan in place. Now, today's session. Now, why is the resume important, right? I keep saying this all the time that, the resume is the single most important element in your application. And why is that so? Because at the end of the day, this is a professional degree, okay? They will first look at your resume to understand several things, right? What are these things? One is, it's the first document that they will look at to see the strength of your candidature. Second is it summarizes very succinctly and nicely your professional and academic accomplishments, right? It adds color to the application by providing certain information on your extracurricular activities, your leadership profile, skill sets. It's a standard document which is used across, different applicants for comparison purposes. And it is an easy to scan, like a one-page document. Like within a page, within a couple of seconds, they get a bird's eye view idea of how this person, if we give this person resources from our school plus this existing resume, how can this person be recruited? How will a corporate recruiter really view this? Also, I've really written this in red, and I think this is very important, that past performance is considered as an indicator of future success. And time and again, we hear this from admissions officers, we hear this from recruiters who are coming to campus, for business school recruiting. So you have to make sure that, you are able to write things in there, which maybe, sometimes you may think that this is important, but it's not so important. And you may think something is not so important, but actually it is very important. So that is a very subjective, contextual, a discussion. But broadly, these are the reasons why a resume is important in a business school application. Now, how is the MBA resume different from a job resume? Job resumes come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and designs and everything. But an MBA resume follows a standard template. And for those of you, eventually when you go to business school, you will remember my words. The career office has a resume template. And the career center, career office of your respective business school, when they help you with recruitments, they will give you a resume template. And those are the templates that we use. So it's better that, if you are applying to business school, it's always good if you're engaging with admissions officers, ask them, if you have a template that I can use, can you please share it with me? And I'm sure they will share it with you. Okay. If you already don't have it. But an MBA resume is different from a job resume because one, it has to showcase leadership and business experience / potential. Leadership is common sense, but why am I saying business experience / potential? Because many applicants do come from non-businessy or technical backgrounds. Either you're coming from technical backgrounds or you're coming from let's say public sector or a social impact sector. The format and the structure is very different, right? For an MBA resume, which is why I said that I encourage you to contact career officers or the admissions committee and say, can you please share a resume format with me? And some of the European schools actually do that. In fact, Rotman has its own resume format, and they are very clear that fill out your resume in our format when you submit the application. So watch out for those application requirements for every school. And lastly, skills, right? You have to bring out skills through examples and projects and mentoring activities and everything else. That how are you good at businessy skills, MBA skills in terms of negotiation, sales, decision making, etc. So they see you as someone who belongs to business school. Now, what should a resume showcase? First, it has to be impact / result oriented. And I will say this again on, I think, one of the subsequent slides, that do not use the words responsible for. Do not use that little space that you have on your resume to list down your job description. Showcase the impact in a way that someone who's not from your industry is able to understand. Okay. Leadership, it has to demonstrate examples of leadership through career, college, and community involvement. It has to demonstrate academic chops. You have to have a demonstrated ability to manage a rigorous quantitative coursework at an MBA program. It has to show career development, right? Career gaps, or making random career switches. These are all red flags, right? Of course, which is why business schools give you a lot of equity and real estate and other application components where you can explain these career gaps, but it has to still show career development. Have you been promoted? Have you taken on more large complex projects? Have you had people reporting to you? May not be in a disciplinary, capacity, maybe in a supervisory capacity. Value proposition, your MBA focused skill set and leadership skills, as I spoke on the earlier slide, and some of your differentiating factors, something that makes you unique. If you have patents and publications, international experiences, languages, extracurriculars, and of course, you don't put everything in there. It's contextual. So this is where like I said, this is general information which I am providing right now. But when you work on a resume, it's very context specific. Okay. Now, what does an admissions committee look for when they are scanning a resume, when they pick up a resume? First is the structure and aesthetics. And I'll speak about each of these in the following slides. So I'm not going to go into details over here, but basically they look for the structure. They look for impact, right? So we have to demonstrate impact. Soft skills, which are also, like I said, MBA skills, someone who can display skills regarding business development or conflict resolution, negotiation, persuasion, influencing skills, analytical skills, right? If you can handle the rigor of the MBA curriculum, right? So we will go into each of these in a little bit more detail. Now, structure and aesthetics. Restrict your resume to one page. No matter what the temptation to go beyond one page, do not. This is a space to showcase your greatest hits and your greatest achievements. It is possible. Many applicants who work with us go to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. They have managed to, showcase all their accomplishments in one page, and even in spite of having, let's say, 8 years of work experience or 10 years of work experience. So you can also do the same. Always have a header. That's a no-brainer. Name, phone, email, LinkedIn profile, and your URL, right? Regarding your email, make sure that you don't have these funny email addresses. Okay, if you went to undergrad, somewhere internationally, you have your undergrad email. You can use that. That's great. You can create a separate email just to manage MBA applications, but make sure it's not something very funny. Okay, just make sure that it's clean. It looks professional. On a business MBA kind of resume. Maintain consistency of fonts, currency, date formats. Don't go all over the place. Don't try to say, because I'm applying to US, I'll use an MMDDYY format. Because I'm going to Europe, I'm going to use a different format. Don't do that. Stick to one. It's totally fine. Stick to a global format. For currency, you can mention USD. If you're mentioning the dollar, I always have a question like, which dollar is this? But if you maintain, for example, if you work on a project in Singapore and you mention dollar, then I would think that, is it Singapore dollar? Is it a US dollar? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to showcase scale and impact, right? So if, let's say, you worked on a $500 million project in Singapore, so I would try to understand whether this is a Singapore dollar or US dollar. So I prefer, using either SGD or USD, but you can use the dollar sign as well. It is commonly accepted. In terms of font, I think my favorite business font is Times New Roman. Don't have, some really small font sizes, really don't. They meet business school admissions officers. I've said this again and again that, please do not, in an attempt to squeeze it, don't have these narrow margins, small font, and squeezing everything. It doesn't work. Okay. There is a way to do it. Currency, like I mentioned, whether you are talking about million, billion, just be consistent in that. No color and designs. I get resumes of all types. Something is blue in color. There are like red highlights. It's even if you're from a creative field, for business school application, please be conservative. Have a plain white sheet of paper, Word document with black, just maintain it to black and white. No colors, no designs, and something on the left, kind of a side, something over here. Don't do that. Okay. Language, avoid abbreviations and industry jargons, right? This is something I think very, very important. Remember that someone who reads your resume is not may not be from your field, and there's a good chance that 80% of the time they're not going to be from your field. So it's not that if you come from private equity, someone with a private equity background is going to read your resume. So you have to write your write the bullet points in a way that does not have too many industry jargons. This is not going to be read by a hiring manager, but an admissions committee member. Okay. Also, reverse chronological order. This is a no-brainer, but I still like to mention that there are not two schools of thought over here that, because you're applying to business school, you put your education up top and then you start with your work experience. However, increasingly, when I see resumes of successful applicants, not only those who work with us, but those maybe who work on their own or other, consultants, we see that it starts with work experience. Okay, because we are looking at an average of 4 to 5 years of work experience, and that's the resume which is eventually going to go into the hands of a recruiter post your graduation. So we recommend that you start with your work experience, then you add your education, and then go to your additional information. Also, in the work experience, how do you arrange your bullets? Start with your most significant projects first. Okay. And then trickle it down. For example, your project work definitely comes first in a reverse chronological order, like the most important one being first, and the last towards the end. You can write things like, I was the highest rated associate in my band, or the youngest associate to be promoted globally at my level, or I do not report to, let's say, 1 level senior, but 2 levels senior, and I'm the only one to do that. These are things you can actually write on your resume. Many people don't write, but you can write that. Okay, and you should. I encourage you to do that. Okay, impact. I already said this. It's not a job description. Please do not list out job responsibilities. Okay. They're not interested in what you do. They are, but you have to not kind of say, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Okay. You have to showcase that I worked on this, led a project, on XX and X, managing a team of so and so people, where I did this, and how did I do that? Avoid these words responsible for. I already said this before, but I cannot stress this more often. Now we use a star format for each bullet as much as possible. A star format, for those of you who come from consulting firms, know the star format. Star is also something which is a format which can be used for essays, and perhaps my colleague will speak about this during the next session in the webinar series. But star basically means situation, task, action, and result. If you want to share a particular professional story, we recommend that you put it in the star format for you to really understand, what the action you took was, what was the result, what was the impact, and that helps you showcase the impact in a slightly better way. It's just making sense of all your myriad thoughts. Includes awards and recognition received at work. Please do that. Sometimes, now here's an interesting point, which I think I would rather make it now. There will be space on the application form as well to showcase many things which would otherwise be on the resume. So what we usually do is, when people are working with us, at the outset, we get the resume done, because it is needed to craft your stories. But once the application is done, closer to the deadline, about a week, 2 weeks before, we again go back to the resume and we see the resume and update it for everything which has happened from now until the time closer to deadline, right? And then at that point of time, we're also looking at the application form and the resume together. If some things can be included in the application form, move those things to the application form, and then use the resume to write other things. If you feel that I want a 2-page resume, try to move some of those things to the application form. They give you slots to mention mentoring, experience, volunteer opportunities, awards, recognition. If all that is going into your application form, you get more free space to include more, projects on your resume. These are some of the top 100 resume words. You can take a screen grab of this, that which you can use the start of the bullet point by these action words. This is something every career office also at a business school will say, that when you go to business school. Quantify your achievements wherever possible. Sometimes quantitative, what do you say? It's not possible to quantify your achievement or impact. Look for qualitative impact also, I would say. Did it make, some team member, did it put in the team in a better position? Were processes more streamlined, more efficient? Maybe you cannot quantify it, but you maybe have some outputs. You can go back to your organization and see that I did so and so. What was the final outcome? Can you tell me? And then go back and write that in your resume. And contextualize, helping the reader understand your contribution better. This, honestly, I feel it only comes if you're working with someone who specializes in doing professional resumes. And for those of you who are not planning to work with a consultant, the least you should do is hire a resume coach. Okay, please do not oversee this really, really important aspect of your application. You have to make sure that this is the best possible document in all your application materials. Okay, soft skills, or I would like to call them MBA skills. And make sure that you are writing up about projects in a way that brings out these skills. We ask our applicants as to do you have an example where you can showcase strong negotiation skills? What is a good negotiation according to you? And then we are like, okay, maybe this is not how a good negotiation looks like, this is how it looks like. So did you have an example where you did this? International experience, diversity continues to remain a focus across all business schools. So if you have experiences leading diversity initiatives at your organization or elsewhere, influencing skills. Let's say, you work closely with leadership at maybe with clients, you worked at very senior levels. So you definitely are in a very key influencing position. How do you influence some key decisions, some outcomes? Entrepreneurship. Now, you don't need to be an entrepreneur to showcase entrepreneurship skills. Entrepreneurship is possible in an organization, and there is also a term called corporate entrepreneurship. So it's just about showcasing those skills, because these are skills which are valuable in a business school classroom. Okay. The last point, I think it's my favorite. You have to mention transferable skills in case of a career transition. Let's say you want to move into you're in a business analyst role and you want to become a product manager. There is some gap. Some skills that you can use as a business analyst, right? As a product manager, some skills you don't. In some cases, you may have to change your job to showcase those skills and maybe get some pro bono experience at another organization to put that on your resume. But you can also highlight those skills from your current job, right? So think about this very carefully, because that's what you will have to do even after you go to business school. You will have to make a list of transferable skills and then bring out examples where you have demonstrated those transferable skills. So a recruiter in your future job, which is that career transition, also is able to see you as someone who has those skills to change your career. Quantitative skills, analytical skills. If you have a highly analytical role, great. I think if not, I would say try to take more work which can demonstrate more analytical or quantitative rigor. If you already have a quant focused role, you showcase those skills and that impact. Sometimes people are brilliant at what they do. They have strong quant focused roles, but they are just listing out down their job responsibilities. I do this, and this. And the quant aspect does not come out. It does not show analytical thinking or structured decision making. So do demonstrate that, write those things down. Academic accomplishments, of course, showcase quantitative and analytical skills. Though, however, if you're in the year of application, there's little that you can do to really change, your GPA or anything. But if you have a high GPA, if you are on the dean's list, your GMAT and GRE score, of course, the scores are reported directly to the school, and you also have you also have the opportunity to showcase that in the application form. The undergraduate institution and subject selection also plays a role. That does not mean that if you did not go to IIT, your chances of demonstrating that are really low. But if you the fact that if you went to IIT, and the kind of subjects that you chose over there, the schools do have regional representatives who help them understand the quantitative rigor of each of the local universities and programs. So, so that will definitely play a role as well. If you do not have many quant, skills, if you come from a non-quant background, non-analytical background, a non-quant undergrad, consider taking pre-MBA courses such as MBA Math or HBS Core. This is basically pre-MBA coursework. And you, by the way, even after you're admitted to business school, you have to take some pre-MBA coursework between the time that you're admitted and then you actually go to business school. So you can do this. This also prepares you. I believe UCLA and Haas also have some pre-MBA courses, and you can look them up, and do that, which shows if you have absolutely non-business background, it shows your readiness for business school. All right. So I wanted to kind of do this as a quiz kind of thing that, which one of these would you recommend? That, most of the resume should showcase analytical skills for someone with a low GPA. Second option is all bullets should emphasize analytics if the candidate is in a quant heavy role to highlight strength. Most bullets should be about the biggest impact without repetition and leave space for even smaller bullets on soft skills. Or most bullet points should be about soft skills to differentiate a quant profile. So, you guys can, in the Q&A box, you can write, what do you think? Should it be option 1, 2, 3, or 4? I'm basically just going to give this 30 seconds because there are a lot of questions which are coming in, and I want to make sure I take all the questions this time. Okay. Most of you are already smart. Most of you already get it. All right. So that's correct. Option 3 is the right one. Most bullets should be about the biggest impact without repetition and leave space for even softer, smaller bullets on soft skills, or like I said, these MBA skills. Okay. Now, these are some of the examples of before and after, right, of a resume. You can take a screen grab of this, but these are examples of some of the resumes which we have redone, like first version and final version of successful applicants, people who have made it to top 10 programs. So first is, prepared and presented sales ideas. We've just changed it to ideated and implemented a marketing campaign. It's the same. Marketing is basically ideas to generate sales. Another one, which is, for mentoring, attain the opportunity to mentor newly inducted team members. This is too long. Also, guys, this is something we'll cover in the essay webinar, but avoid using passive voice. Use active voice, active verbs, right? So we changed it to mentored so-and-so interns and ex-graduate hires. Again, don't be very verbose. Try to say things what you want to very succinctly. These are people who are going to, the people in the admissions committee, admissions readers, they are going to look at thousands of applications. The first thing they're going to spend is, maybe 30 seconds on a resume, right? The first thing. So you want to make sure that they look at it and they're like, if they do have, one pile versus the other, they put you in a pile where they're like, okay, I need to look at this application really closely because this person, this is a really strong resume. Another one which is of my favorite is, the second to the last, brought a more systematic and disciplined approach to control and reporting mechanism in XXX by computerizing their financials. Now, on the face of it, it seems like it's fine, right? But by just saying something like updated control and reporting in so-and-so business division by implementing computerized financial systems, it conveys the same thing in a more professional, succinct manner. And which is why I would repeat myself that, if you have to invest in something in your application process, do invest in a resume coach. Okay. Things to avoid: multiple pages. It's a no-brainer because some schools will in fact not even take a resume beyond one page. I don't know, some careers like Wall Street, they will not accept a resume beyond one page. So, it's a requirement across schools. So, that's a no-brainer. Now, summary line. Now, this is, there are two ways to look at it. Below, when you mention your employer, sometimes there is, you can also use, a small summary, a line to describe your company. You can use it to describe your organization. If this is not, do not use that as a summary line to describe your job responsibilities. Don't do that. Let me kind of make, 2-3 sentences about what I do, and then I have bullet points about what my impact across various projects is. I don't think you should do that. You can use that line to describe your organizations. Do know that sometimes on the application form, you will have space to describe your organization, describe your job responsibilities. All that space then automatically goes away from the resume. The resume definitely looks better. So always look at the resume and the application form, in conjunction. What is it that you will already say, or have an opportunity to say on the application form, what you can remove from the resume? Please do not highlight words and lines. Okay, please do not do that. There are people who have done it and they've still gone to business school. I'm not kind of saying there's only one way to do things. but it's not very professional, to be honest. White space, of course, don't have white space on the resume. Just make sure it's nicely clean, formatted, structured so that it just fits into one page completely. Anything over 5 years old typically will not kind of have much value. And you can, for undergraduate work experience and internships, if you have a lot of internships, you have to think about a way to kind of showcase that. What I don't want is that half a page is just filled with undergraduate internships, right? So that is something, you have to look at, how we can showcase that in another, maybe an optional essay or something, if you really have a long list. If you have just one or two, then it's, I think, fine. Your GPA, of course, unless it's phenomenal, but of course you will have to mention your GPA. I think you will be giving a transcript, so they will anyway know your GPA. Too many numbers or jargon which do not add any specific value to your impact, don't do that. Don't crowd a bullet point with so many numbers because you're like, okay, we heard that you have to quantify the impact. Let me just put numbers everywhere. Don't do that. These are some of the things to avoid. And okay, lastly, I did want to spend some time talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your professional presence online. I wanted to share an interesting story about someone I spoke to, and I launched into this monologue about how your LinkedIn profile plays an important role in the business school applications, because let's assume that they are Googling you, they're finding you online. And at the end of 5 minutes, this person says, but I'm not a very social media savvy person. I don't have a LinkedIn profile. I don't have a presence anywhere. I hate LinkedIn and social media. And I think social media is this and that, and it creates all these psychological problems for teenagers. So, well, I have nothing to say for that. I'll be very honest. So I'm not going to be very helpful over there if you are someone who does not have a public profile, a social media presence. Sorry, but if you do, make sure that that you go with the assumption that an admissions committee member might Google you or find you on LinkedIn, and try to match your professional presence with what you're showcasing in your application, predominantly through your resume. If you're working with us, we help with LinkedIn and resume both. Okay, we have experts on the team who do both. And I have helped many people prior to my work with Red Pen. I used to be a career coach, so I have helped a lot of people with their LinkedIn profiles, and I know that it plays a huge role. So understanding LinkedIn as a platform is very important. Here are some of the most important things which I have highlighted. There is a lot more, but I think given the time constraint, these are some of the things I think you can use as ready tips. Make sure that you only have one LinkedIn profile, and please have a clean professional headshot. All of us have very nice phones with advanced cameras. Please just put on a jacket and with good light, just take a professional headshot, and make sure that you put a headshot over there which a business school admissions officer might look at and be like, okay, this person at least seems to have professional presence. I say the same for interviews, but I'm going to save all those things for the interview webinar. But at least have a clean, professional, businessy headshot. And add this public profile URL to your resume. There's a link on LinkedIn where you go in the settings or something. I think it gives your personal URL. Okay, don't copy the link of the HTTP link. Okay, you have to go into your LinkedIn profile, and there is a specific link with your name, which is a very small, clean link which you can add to your resume. Professional presence, it's a social platform for professional and business purposes. So please don't, refrain from posting these vacation pictures or, anything which is not related to your career. There are a lot of things which are coming up on LinkedIn where people, especially I've seen during pandemic and after that, people are posting a lot of things related to the personal life and their opinions. Unless you are an influencer, I would refrain you from doing that for your business school applications. I strongly would. Make sure, for example, your post MBA goals are, if you want to go into consulting, make sure you're following consulting companies that you want to work for and that you've written in your application, and not following a whole bunch of tech companies or a whole bunch of investment banking firms. That's a contrast right there. Extracurriculars, add your volunteer experiences, and this is a great way. If you're not able to squeeze everything in your application form, if you're one of those superstars who has just applied yourself in so many diverse ways, just add all these things on your LinkedIn profile. If you are giving that link on your resume, that's great. Do add more recommendations. So business school applications require 1 or maximum 2 recommendations. This is a way for you to add more recommendations. Reach out to some of your peers, your clients, and your maybe if you have had people reporting to you, or maybe seniors, and add more recommendations to your profile. They do not say that we are going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile, but chances are they will, and that might play in your favor. So I usually recommend this very highly. Have a conversation and request a recommendation from someone who would otherwise not be writing your LinkedIn, your business school recommendation. Sorry. Highlight your achievements, right? If you have project samples, if they're not confidential, honors and awards which are not covered on, you can repeat what's on your resume and application form also, but if something is specifically not covered there, make sure you cover it over here. If you have additional certifications where it was maybe there was no space to write those on the resume, you can do those here. And build your brand, build your professional brand. Like, if you can always participate in group discussions, post thought leadership articles, write, short blog articles on LinkedIn, which showcases that, you have an opinion in your post MBA industry. That is, establishing your brand online. And this is in your control. This is something you can do. So I would strongly recommend that, you do take your LinkedIn presence into consideration in addition to your resume. Well, that's it that I had. I do want to, share that a resume is a highly personal document. I have tried my best to give you as much information as I could, that you can apply to your specific context. But a resume, has to be contextualized. Every single bullet point, the structure, how it looks, it has to be. We, in fact, have 2 layers where we work on resume. There are resume specialists, and then the consultant that you're working with also does that. Like I said, we look at it at 2 different points of time. Early when you're working with us, and closer to the application deadline, you have to again revise and see, have there been any updates. Another tip I will tell everyone is look at your performance evaluations that you have received at your organization. There are many things which, very nice things that your supervisor may have written over there, which may find a place on your resume. People don't look at their performance evaluation. So you may want to look at that. Also, do not take the resume for granted. It's funny, but, it's the most important document in the whole application. And people usually just jump to the essays because they're like, oh, I need to tell my story. But no one is going to look at your essays unless your professional brand is as strong, right? So please do not take the resume lightly. If you already have not, please start working on a resume after this webinar is over, and do make sure that you keep updating the resume. Many a times you do some amazing things which showcase those MBA specific skills, like I said, negotiation, influencing, conflict resolution, persuasion. And we forget about it. On a daily basis, we are doing things and contributing to organization. And we forget. And we should not, so that we don't forget and not just rely on memory, keep just a simple Word document and let it flow into multiple pages. Then you can kind of cut it down. But keep a note of those, and, even just update your resume, on a monthly basis. Also, the way it works, for a resume, and this is something I used to always mention as a career coach when I was to work with people, in their with mid-career professionals in the middle of career transitions. You have to focus on, your contributions at work, and then you can put them on the resume and not the other way around. You cannot write things on the resume which you've never done. That's like phoning it in, and that's unethical. Think when you are going to work, think about what your contributions truly are. If you look at your peer group, how are you truly contributing more than how anyone else is? And if that's not happening, maybe that's what you need to focus on, that, what is my impact? And maybe I focus on the impact, and then I'm able to write that in the resume. So if you're not already doing that, make sure you're doing that at work. And as you're inching closer to business school application deadlines, make sure that, you're able to show strong career development. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take questions, and I want to make sure that last time I could not take all the questions. So if that happens this time as well, this is the email address, team.mba@theredpen.in. Please email us, and we got so many inquiries last time. We were not able to kind of fit all incoming inquiries and all within like 48 hours. So please write an email to us, at this email, and then we will get back to you within 48 hours for sure. All right, now questions. Let's start. We already have like a good 21 questions. Okay. Anonymous attendee, how can I, being an engineering student who doesn't have great social stuff happening at college, showcase my businessy skills? Well, there has to be something, okay? It's not that you're just an engineering student, but you're a human being. In business school, you're going to sit with other people, and it's going to be your contributions that are going to basically contribute to classroom discussions. So how are you going to contribute to the business school community? How will you contribute to the learning of your peers? When a case study discussion is on and a professor is leading a discussion, how will you contribute? How will you think? So even if you're an engineering student, I would say find volunteer opportunities, find mentoring opportunities. And even as an engineering student, maybe you have helped, some of your peers who have been struggling with their studies. You can still show, skills which are important for business, an MBA program, a business program. It need not be business C skills. Now, that being said, which is why I said that, try to consider taking either the HBS score or the MBA math. There is also a Wharton Business Fundamentals course on Coursera, which is completely free. I had advised that to one person. She did take it, coming from a government sector. She eventually went to Yale. So you can consider taking that. Okay. So this is answered. How personal should we go writing a resume? I'm not sure I understand that question, but I would not write a lot of personal things on a resume. It's basically education and professional. There should be volunteer activities as well if you're involved with your communities. That's about it beyond the education and personal, but I would not do that. Also try to, guys, since we are talking about, volunteer activities and everything, I do recommend that, you seek quality over quantity, right? Do make sure that, you have volunteering experience, which is meaningful, which is, which has a motivation, and then go about writing it. For those of you who have extremely busy work lives, think about getting involved with engagements at work. There might be diversity initiatives, there might be some employee resource groups at your organization. Try to see if you want to get involved in some of those initiatives, so that you can write that in your resume as well. What is a dean's list? A dean's list is basically, the top, I think, 5% of people who, if you're top 5% of your class, you're in the dean's list. That's a dean's list. How would you recommend laying out promotions and certifications in the resume? For certifications, it depends how many certifications you have. If you have like 10 different certifications, if you're a technical guy, you have this, Agile certification and Six Sigma and Scrum. I'm just saying all over. I would not kind of just put the whole list. Then I would think of transferring some to the LinkedIn. And I put the LinkedIn profile URL on the resume. Promotions, you should definitely write as a bullet point that promoted. So one is, to write promotions as, if you have one job, you went from associate to senior associate to assistant manager to manager, you basically write those with the dates. It's as simple as that. That shows promotion. If you have received accelerated promotions, that will also show that. But if you've received them out of turn, that is a bullet point I would write. That I received these accelerated, they will see that, in 4 years, you had 4 promotions, you got promoted every year. But I would write that I was the only one who got promoted every year. I was the only youngest member who got promoted every year, or I received out of turn promotions. Those are things which I would write. Okay. If you're not able to write that anywhere else on the application form, let's say an optional essay, whatever, I would write that in the resume. Okay. Please also mention certain tips for deferred MBA programs. Good point. In fact, I'd almost thought about speaking about deferred MBA programs, and then I forgot about it. Deferred MBA programs, I think, the structure varies a little slightly, Ram. You will have, of course, a lot of education accomplishments, but there will be a lot of internships, as we are seeing, for deferred MBA applicants. There are a lot of internships that you write about, a lot of projects that you're involved when you're with your university, but you have to apply yourself in diverse ways. There's a different format that we use, Ram. If you can just send us an email at this email address, which is shown on screen, then we'll share the deferred MBA template with you. Just mention this webinar and let us know. I think hopefully by Monday someone should get back to you. In 5 years of experience, if someone has switched 3 to 4 jobs, then what will a person do? Well, if you have switched jobs in a certain manner which leads you to a certain career path, I think that's fine, so long as you are able to explain that in the resume. But I see resumes of people who have gone from audit to investment banking to social impact. Okay, now that is going to be questioned. That is going to be questioned, and there need to be plausible reasons for which you may need an optional essay to explain some of those career switches. But business school admissions officers are looking at that. It's not that, oh, this person changed like random career changes or tragedies. It's not like they will look at your application. If there are brands, there is strong experience at each of those jobs that you have done, then they will definitely look at that. Okay. How do I showcase being a women leader manager in a male dominated industry or team? By literally using those words that, this is, I'm a part of a leadership group, which has, let's say, 90% men, and maybe I'm the only women. You have to literally write it exactly. You put a bullet point which says exactly what you said, of course, in a very different way. So we can help you kind of structure that language. But you have to write that you are a woman leader in a male dominated industry. In a team of 25, it's like there are 23 men and I'm the only woman, you can say that. If you have a story about how you made to that, then those are things which can also be covered as examples in the essays, Ritika. I dropped out from a master's degree after 1 semester. Should I add it in education or mention it somewhere else? If that shows a gap on your resume, then I would mention it somewhere else as an explanation in the optional essay if the gap is shown. But I don't think you can add it in education, because in the education section you should basically write completed education, right? Otherwise, what I don't recommend is, let's say you took 5 courses on Coursera. I don't recommend writing all those 5 courses in the education section. Education is primarily to write about your undergraduate. Is admission team going to print it before reading the e-format? Is it okay if we need more info in a non-printable format, some like clickable comment section or else some that are not going to be present in printable format? Good question. We have done that. We have had someone who very strongly felt that, I have this project which is on this website and I really want to showcase that. We did mention that, and it was like in blue, so someone knows that this is something which needs to be clicked. So when they see it maybe online, then they're able to see that. What paper size is preferable? I think just the normal, I guess, A4. Any hint for favorable file format? Word document, right? What innovation have you seen in resume that could be a good idea for us to follow? Good question. I think as far as I know, I will answer it the other way around. What I would not follow. What LinkedIn allows many people to do, and many people do that, it allows you to download a resume based on your profile that is completed. So people just download that and then they use that. Please do not use that. Please do not use that for a business school application. Business school applications, for years, they have followed a certain format. and just follow that format. Either you can write to us at this address, team.mba@redpen.in. We are happy to share our format. But that's just a format. Like I said, please work with, if you have doubts, at least get a pair of eyes who's a professional resume writer and who understands what business school applications are looking for to really help you with this. But you can write to us at this email address, mention this webinar, and I think we'll be happy to share a resume format with you. Okay. What I want to know that, is it going to stay on the file form or be printed? I would not know that, honestly, because, I may be, some admissions officer at some business school who may prefer a printout, but there may be someone else who's an admissions reader who may not prefer a printout. This is something I would ask the admissions committee. There are many forums on which you can engage with them. There are questions you can ask the school, which is on your list, and you should write to them. This is what I want to mention. What do you think? Is it going to be printed or not? How do I showcase that? I would ask them. Talk please more about extracurricular activities. What types of activities lie within its borders? Depends, right? I mean, each one of us has some, extracurriculars. We pursue something outside of work. Though many people who come to us with investment banking careers or consulting careers, or just, I don't want to kind of silo those two careers, but, basically if you're working, let's say 100-hour weeks, and you're like, listen, I love playing cricket, but who has time to even hold a bat? Well, you can write what you did at undergrad. They do take that into consideration. So if you've been, pursuing any sort of a sport, if you've been teaching something to underprivileged kids, fitness is your thing, you enjoy cooking, whatever, you can write that. Now, that being said, there's something interesting I will share. If you are someone who has an amazing list of achievements, right, which you're struggling to fit in one page, then I would not kind of leave some of those achievements out and write about extracurriculars. You can write a little bit about extracurriculars in the application form as well. I'm from a technical background. How do I show in my resume that I'm interested in management role? That's why you're going to business school, So people from technical backgrounds going to business school is a very plausible reason. In fact, it's a good reason. But you just have to have reasons as to why you're going into a business role. And like I said, trying to take some of those pre-MBA courses, MBA Math, HBS Core, or, some of those pre-MBA courses from UCLA and Haas, or the Wharton Business Fundamentals course on Coursera, that shows your readiness for business school. So I would encourage you to take some of those courses to demonstrate that you can do that you want to do that. I would also look at taking, some pro bono internships, or, some side projects. Maybe you're helping a startup in a pro bono capacity, getting some knowledge or getting some experience on the ground in some management positions. That's also another way to kind of showcase on your resume, because a resume, like I said, it is all about evidence. You have to show evidence, right? Do cover your firm's efficiency for deferred MBA applications too. So we have a very small population of people who work with us on deferred MBA applications, but every year we have people who go to M7 schools. Be it Stanford, be it Wharton, be it Kellogg, MIT, Booth. Every year we have a small population that does get admits. But we work with a very small pool. Okay. Is it necessary to waste some space for address, telephone number while they already entered electronically on your application? No, please do not waste some space for address or telephone number if it's already covered in your application. Are you going to show or share and break down a demo resume? I am not, because we spoke about this, internally. We brainstormed whether we should do that, but it's very contextual. I could take a technical resume and a banker might be like, I don't get this. How do I contextualize this? What I did today, and because the presentation was for 30 minutes, what I did is showcase at least the basic things that you should keep in mind when you're doing it. Like just sitting and writing things down, what I did doesn't make sense. So if you go back to the presentation, look at each of the slides. Okay, have I demonstrated an example where I have showcased this particular skill? Have I showcased this skill or not? that should enable you to think. But there are so many. We work with applicants who come from nearly 40 different industries. When last time I sat down, and I over the last 11 years, I'm like, how many different industries we work with people from, and those industries are still evolving, right? So last time I think I had a count of about 40 different industries. So it's very difficult to kind of take a resume that appeals to a very wider audience. But I did have some before after examples, which you can go back to the recording, and that should possibly give you some idea. Is it okay if you use hyperlink for more information on that subject? Yeah, you can. But like I said, I would ask the admissions officer about, I would ask the admissions committee. There's an email where you can ask the question that, would you be taking printout, because I would like to include a hyperlink. How is that addressed? And schools will be coming online, and they will be hosting a lot of events. For our applicants, we share all events which are happening at business schools. We encourage them to attend and ask these questions. As members of the AGAC, we will have an opportunity. I will have an opportunity. I'll be hosting one of the sessions actually. I will have an opportunity to speak with, business school admissions officers once applications are live, and we can ask them some of these questions. So I will probably take some of these questions to them, but they are making themselves available and accessible on multiple platforms to answer all these questions. So take advantage of that. I have many accomplishments, and I don't know what to put in and what not. Currently, even after hours of elimination, I have a 3-page resume. Well, that's great. I think you should be extremely proud of yourself. I think what we can do is, if you just send your resume on this email address, maybe, we have a one-on-one conversation. Because I think I really need to see the resume to see, what do we have? Is it verbose? Can we reduce the language, if it's too wordy? Yeah, so just send us your resume at this, and just mention this webinar. How do I enhance my profile in a way that my resume and application stands out? Well, that itself would be a 1 hour long discussion. Think about how you're contributing to work, and a very simple way to do that. And the way when I'm talking to someone, let's say for the first couple of minutes, when I'm one of my initial questions to them is, how to, where do you stand in your peer group? What is your rating, right? If your rating is, let's say 1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest, where do you stand? And if you see that, there are some superstars at work who are doing better, contributing better, maybe that itself in your close group, that itself is your benchmark. But that's a very simple way of answering this question. And, I will not do justice answering this question in just 2 minutes. So enhancing a profile can be done in many ways. If you go back to the slide where I have that MBA Wedding Cake, right? Where I have listed down all the different elements, what admissions officers are looking for. You have to look at basically each of those elements: work experience, your leadership profile, your extracurricular activities. In each of those, you can see that, what can you enhance, right? If you have been, I would say, if cricket or some sort of a sport has been your thing for like years, I would look at, can I teach that sport, to underprivileged kids? So you have your volunteering and, pursuing your extracurriculars both combined in the same. It's just an example. Is it okay if we write some contents in bold other than titles? We don't recommend that. People do that, but that's not what we recommend. How can a fresher win the heart of the college committee? Great question. I'm assuming that, if you're applying as a deferred MBA applicant, you would still have internships listed, right? So you have to have material. You have to do things, then you are able to put them on the resume. You cannot, it cannot be the other way around. So if you're a complete fresher, think about getting some internships, getting pro bono opportunities. There's so many startups which are coming, which always are happy to, hire interns because they're looking for experience. Look for something like that, Harshit. Work with some career coach to kind of, if you're struggling about, post MBA goals, work with a career coach to just understand, what are some of the plausible career paths you want to pursue, and then taking action in that direction. If you're a fresher, the 2 ways basically to think about is education and experience, and see how you can strengthen both. What part should be on the essay and not on the resume, and vice versa? When you have to explain, when there's a long backstory for, let's say, one of your projects, let's say, is a very complex, important project that ran for months. Now you've written 2 lines about that on the resume, but there's so much to write about that, it was so complex. It ran for months. You had managed so many stakeholders. Then of course, one of those examples could come on your essay in the professional. Also, when you're explaining things in the goals essay, which we'll cover in the next week's webinar, some of the professional pieces can get repeated in the goals essay as well, because you're explaining how your current trajectory and your motivations fuel your post-MBA goals. Should I even mention my MUN and other competitions, accomplishments on LinkedIn? Yes. On LinkedIn, yes. I would do that, because the idea is to showcase as much as possible, to give as much information as possible. So my point is, if you're not able to do that, because writing things prior to your undergrad on your application form and resume does not make sense. You can obviously write them on your LinkedIn. That's totally fine. Completed graduation 4 years back, and there are limited non-office work related contributions in the recent years. How do I fix that? If you're applying this year, there is little that you can do. If your work is very strenuous, that's totally fine. You have to just be very honest about it, that because I was working 100-hour weeks, I genuinely did not have, and I gave everything to my work. It's totally fine. You don't have to have it. However, if you're applying, let's say 1 or 2 years down the line, you have time to think about it. You have time to think about, when I go to business school, how would I like to contribute to my classmates? Because you're going to live on campus, right? What else do you like to do outside of work? Is something they would like to know. Can you specify exactly which pre-MBA courses to go other than HBS Core and MBA Math, which are free? Like I said, the Wharton Business Fundamentals course on Coursera is free. So you can look at Coursera, COURSERA.org, and you can look for that course. That's a course in business fundamentals. Are MOOC certificates of any value in MBA applications? Not if you just want to show them that, oh, I did that. But if it's truly adding value to your experience in a way that is meaningful to your post-MBA goals, that you're working in that direction, then yes. Then you can say that, I have been doing these string of certifications to upskill myself already. And I'm doing this side project. I'm doing this internship. And that is evidence that you're serious about your post-MBA goals, that you did not just wake up, on the wrong side of the bed and say that, today I think I'm going to become an aeronautical engineer, right? It's not that. You've thought about it. You've worked on these things. You've done informational interviews. You've done things. You've taken MOOC certificates. So you know what you're getting into. So those goals basically then come alive. If my CGPA was 3.3 on 4, yet I was on the dean's list in my final semester, are my chances to get into top tier Ivy League / INSEAD low? Have been a top performer at work, 2.5 years, youngest, fast track promotion as well. Brilliant. I would write that I was on the dean's list. I would mention the GPA, the CGPA, but I would also write the dean's list, and I would showcase, that the fact that you have been a top performer at work. I would do that. Yeah, I would do that. And yes, your chances to get into a top tier Ivy League INSEAD they're not low. They're not low. How many years of internship is necessary to be in business school? Years of internship, years of work experience, I think you mean. I would say business schools, basically, if you're looking at 80% of the bell curve, that falls, that considers 4 to 5 years of average work experience. Women tend to go with lesser number of years of work experience, especially international women, Indian international women. So that's totally fine. But what we recommend is 3 years of post-undergrad experience at the time of application. Okay, we have a lot of questions. I'm not going to be able to finish these. So please, guys, note down this email address, and please, send us, your questions over here. We'll try our best to answer them. And in some cases, or rather in most cases, we may need to get on a phone call with you. Do attach your resume. Whenever you all are approaching us, please give your resume so that we are able to help you better, right? I'm unable to attend. Please give the recording of this. This is being streamed live on YouTube on our channel at the Red Pen. So, and after the session, you will get an email which will give you a link to the recording. In which section to add Coursera and MBA Math certifications? In the additional information section. You can add that in the additional information section. Okay. I took a sabbatical in my career to recover from an accident and thereafter did experiential learning projects and created my own small online fitness studio project. This is my most recent life experience. How do I put it on the resume? This is very tricky. Usually gaps in your career, especially in the 2 years leading up to business school, is a red flag. Though we had worked with someone who had a gap on the resume literally in the year of application, and she got offers from IMD and IE. But we encouraged her to be honest in her application. Many, the most, sometimes people think that maybe let me just kind of fabricate this and, think of something. Maybe I go to my past employer and say, can you show me why that, don't do those things. Be honest, be upfront. I would write about the fact that you did these experiential learning projects, created your fitness studio. I would write about those things. I encourage you to do that. But this is very contextual, I don't know the entire story, but it is possible to do that in a way that, if you tell your story in a very authentic manner. We had someone, who had a particular career, then he went to B career, but his heart was in A career, right? But he went to B career and he wrote to business, Harvard Business School that he wants to go back to A career. There was a reason why he went from A to B, right? There were personal circumstances, family circumstances. He was and we had him tell his story in a very honest and authentic way. And he did go to HBS. So these are human beings who are going to read your applications. It's how you tell your story and how you showcase that, right? Do we make different resumes for applying to different schools? Depends if schools have a particular format that they want you to use. If you're, for example, a couple of years back when we had an applicant applying to Rotman, they were very clear that they wanted this person to use that resume, a particular resume format. So we used the one that we use for other schools, and then we use that one. The European business schools are also very particular about a particular format. So I would encourage you all to make sure to write to the admissions office that if you have a format that you recommend that I use, please send it to me and they will share it with you. Okay, I am not able to take so many questions now. We're already over time and we have about 10 unanswered questions. So let's do this, guys. Just send us an email at team.mba@redpen.in. And please attach your resume with your specific questions, mention this webinar, and we will try to get back to you within 48 hours. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. And we will also share the recording of this, which is on our YouTube channel. Bye-bye.